Beneath our great mountain, dwarves from every corner of the world gathered as one. They had spent centuries in distant lands. Their customs had changed, and so had their appearance. Some looked so different that they might have seemed to belong to separate peoples. Yet all of them shared the same bond. Each had heard the call of the mountain, and each had answered. They were bound by their love for the mountain, and by the duty to come when it called. Such mountains awakened only rarely. Each brought something precious to the dwarven people. Unknown metals, new ways to work them, or knowledge of equal value. The mountain beneath which we now live had called to our people before. That call came long ages ago, when its peaks and hidden passages looked very different. It was here that one of the oldest and greatest dwarven civilizations arose. Almost nothing is known of them. All that remains of their cities are buried halls, broken sculptures, fragments of ancient buildings, and a handful of metal relics. Yet even these remains reveal the greatness of the people who made them. Their architecture resembles that of no known dwarven kingdom. Their sculptures still seem alive, even after thousands of years beneath the stone. But above all, they were masters of metal. They forged alloys whose secrets died with them. Metal itself is neither good nor evil. Its purpose is decided by the hands of the smith, and by the reason it is shaped. In some forges, it became swords and shields for those who would defend the mountain and bring it honor. In others, it became weapons made to gain power over it. For even among dwarves, there were some whose hearts were darkened by greed. They looked upon the riches of the mountain and believed it gave them only a small part of what lay hidden in its depths. Its gifts were no longer enough. They wanted to use the power of the mountain for their own desires. And so they began to create things that no longer served to protect. From the same metal that an honorable smith might use to forge the weapon of a guardian, another could make a weapon for one who hungered for power. Its shape, its carvings, and even its balance revealed the purpose for which it had been made. But their most dangerous creation was an artifact later known as wild thorn. Dwarven tuning forks were commonly used to read the echoes of buried metals and find veins hidden deep within the stone. Wild thorn was created for something else. It was not made to listen to the mountain. It was made to force the mountain to answer. The artifact twisted the pure, primal power that flowed through its depths. Whoever held it was said to gain power over stone, metal, and the hidden currents beneath the earth. Or so the old legends claim. But the power of Wildthorn came at a price. It did not place darkness in the heart of its bearer. It found the darkness already there and made it stronger. Greed became endless. With every use, Wildthorn brought greater riches, while slowly taking away the judgment needed to control its power. Its creators wanted to force the mountain to surrender its treasures. They wanted the rarest ores, metals and crystals to rise from the depths on their own. They no longer wished to search for them, mine them, or spend years carving paths through the stone. When they finally unleashed the full power of Wildthorn, the mountain answered, but not as they had hoped. The artifact broke the balance within its depths. A violent dissonance passed through layer after layer of stone, until it reached the burning heart of the mountain itself. The earth split open. The buried veins rose to the surface. Fire consumed the lower cities. Stone vaults collapsed. Entire halls vanished beneath the lava. The mountain was changed forever, and the first great civilization beneath it was destroyed by its attempt to turn the power of the mountain into a tool of its own greed. Many thousands of years have passed since then, Its cities were forgotten, its knowledge was lost, and Wildthorn was never found. After the Council of Five, Varric was asked to take up the sword and shield once more. Brogan brought a blue crystal close to them. In Varric's hands, the ancient metal came alive again. Cold blue light spread along the blade and around the rim of the shield. Varric had defeated the goblin chieftain and destroyed the dark force that had defiled the mountain's depths. He had proven his worth. The mountain had chosen him as its protector. But Varric was not the source of the weapon's power. Whenever the crystal was moved away, the light began to fade. To learn more, Varric and Brogan decided to test the sword in the training yard. They prepared 3 pillars. The first was made of thick timber. The second was carved from decorative stone. The third was made from an especially hard stone and reinforced with metal plates. Varric stood before the wooden pillar. The sword passed through the timber with almost no resistance. Blue fire burst from the cut. The flames quickly spread across both halves of the pillar, leaving the edges blackened and burned. After the strike, the light of the blade had faded by almost half. Varric moved to the second pillar. This time, the blade met greater resistance, but it still cut through the stone. A bright blue glow remained along the cut, as though the stone had been burned from within. A moment later, the crystal in Varric's hand went dark. The blade went dark with it. Varric turned to the third pillar and struck it with the powerless sword. The blade cut through the outer metal plate and entered the stone beneath, but only by a few inches. Brogan brought him another crystal. The moment Varric took it, blue light raced along the blade once more. He struck again. This time the sword passed through the metal plates and the hard stone as easily as if they were soft clay. The 2 halves of the armored pillar crashed to the ground. The crystal in Varric's hand went dark and cracked. Now they understood how the weapon worked. It did not consume the same amount of power with every strike. The wooden pillar had taken only part of the crystal's energy. The stone had taken everything that remained, and cutting through the armored pillar had consumed the full power of a fresh crystal. The stronger the obstacle, the more power the sword demanded from the mountain. The balance was clear. The more power they borrowed from the mountain, the higher the price. But this still did not explain how the ancient warriors had used such weapons in battle. Even a great supply of crystals would not last long. The crystals could only be a temporary source of power. To awaken the true strength of the sword and shield, they would need something far more powerful. After the trial of the 3 pillars, one thing became clear. The crystals could not power the ancient weapons for long. Then, Thorvin suggested another source of strength. The Brundars. For centuries, these creatures had lived close to the veins of the mountain. They fed on rare plants that absorbed the power of the blue crystals. After feeding, their eyes sometimes glowed with the same blue light. Thorvin suggested that Varric test the sword while riding a Brundar. For Varric, this was a trial of its own. He had not grown up among the northern clans, and he had little experience riding such creatures. The Brundar sensed his uncertainty. It resisted his commands and nearly threw him several times before the trial had even begun. A heavy stone pillar was hung at the edge of the training ground. Varric raised the sword. As soon as the Brundar began to move, a faint blue light appeared along the blade. The weapon had sensed the power within the creature. The Brundar charged. Varric struggled to keep his balance. As they reached the pillar, he raised the sword and struck. The blade passed through the hanging stone. Blue light burned along the cut, and the two halves crashed to the ground, but the light vanished at once. The Brundar stopped without warning. It threw Varric from its back, lowered itself heavily onto the ground, and closed its eyes. Its breathing remained steady, but almost all its strength was gone. A single strike had left the creature so exhausted that it fell asleep where it lay. They now knew that the power within a Brundar could awaken the weapon, but even that strength lasted only for a moment. None of the sources they had tested could sustain more than a single powerful blow, while Varric, Brogan and Thorvin searched for another answer. The senior Brundar keeper told them an old story. He had been one of the first dwarves to approach wild Brundars without a weapon in his hands. For years he had studied their ways, cared for their wounded, and taught young riders how to earn their trust. Through keepers like him, the northern clans had formed an alliance with the Brundars. Among the oldest keepers, there had long been tales of a creature that lived high among the peaks of the mountain. It had been seen only a few times, always from a great distance. It resembled a Brundar, but it was far larger than any they had ever known. Those who had seen it, even for a moment, called it the spirit of the mountain. Some believed it was the oldest Brundar alive. Others believed it was a guardian born from the mountain itself. If such power truly lived within it, then this creature might be the source they had been searching for.
A force worthy of awe.
At dawn, Varric set out into the mountains. Eldrin, Borin, and the senior keeper went with him. They climbed higher and higher, leaving the roads, settlements, and watchtowers behind. From time to time, they found enormous tracks in the snow, but the trails always vanished among the rocks or led them toward ordinary herds. They searched throughout the day. By nightfall, they were far from the capital. It was too dangerous to continue in the darkness, so they made camp on a small plateau between the cliffs. They lit a fire and took turns keeping watch. In the middle of the night, the keeper heard movement beyond the firelight. Dozens of eyes appeared between the rocks. Dreadwolves had approached the camp without a sound. They were larger than ordinary wolves, with heavy dark coats, long legs, and powerful jaws. The pack surrounded the plateau. The dwarves stood with their backs to the fire and raised their weapons. The first attack came without warning. Several dreadwolves charged at once. The dwarves drove them back, but more emerged from the darkness. During the second attack, one of the beasts reached the keeper. It knocked him to the ground and tore deeply into his side. Varric and Borin continued to hold back the pack. They wounded several dreadwolves and forced the others to retreat, but only for a moment. There were far too many of them. The pack was preparing to attack again when a deep, drawn-out roar echoed across the mountains. The sound was so powerful that the air seemed to tremble. The dreadwolves froze. Something enormous was approaching through the darkness. Then a giant white creature burst from behind the rocks. It was a Brundar, but none of them had ever seen one like this. It was larger than even the strongest Brundars of the northern clans. Its massive horns curved above its head like an ancient crown. The white Brundar charged into the pack. It hurled one dreadwolf aside with its horns. Another fell beneath its hooves. Several more were driven back against the rocks. The rest tried to surround it. None of them could come close. Another mighty roar rolled across the plateau. The pack broke and fled into the night. Varric, Eldrin, and Borin stood beside the fire. None of them could believe what they had seen. A single Brumdar had driven away an entire pack of dreadwolves, but the danger had not passed. The white Brumdar turned toward the dwarves. It lowered its head, pointed its horns at them, and began to approach. There was no trust in its eyes. It was ready to attack. Varric looked at the wounded keeper. Blood still flowed from his side. Without help, he might not survive the night. Varric slowly placed his sword and shield upon the snow.
I do not wish to fight you. We serve the same mountain. We have harmed none of the Brundles who live beneath these peaks. He has devoted his life to helping your kind and mine live beside one another. If you have the power to help him, I beg you, save him!
Then the creature turned toward the wounded keeper. It lowered its head over him and drew a slow breath. When it breathed out, pale blue mist poured from its nostrils. The Brundar had not healed him completely, but the bleeding had stopped.
Wait! The mountain has chosen us for the same purpose. We are both meant to defend it from the evil that is coming.
The distance between them grew. Then Varric shouted one final time,
This evil will spare no one! Not you! Not even the Brungars!
For several moments, silence fell across the plateau. Then it rose onto its hind legs and released a thunderous roar.
Gather the gear. We leave before first light. Then move. The mountain has shown us enough for one night.
Everything is almost ready. We are prepared to march on the capital of the filthy dwarves. At last.